You can't force people to be other than who they are. In a lot of human relationships, people try and change the other person in order to fit their values, fit their beliefs, fit their way of life. And this doesn't really work. This is very unsustainable. When you begin to let go of your apparent need to control other people, when you let go of needing other people to be a certain way, you can actually connect to them deeper and understand them deeper. When you're trying to get someone to be a certain way, you're not really relating to them. You're not really seeing them. You're not really connecting to them. You're just too busy trying to change people. You're too stuck in your own ego. You're too stuck in yourself. You're too stuck in your self agenda. You're too stuck trying to just get what you want unconsciously. And when you actually begin to let go of the impulse to manipulate the other person, to change them, your relationships get far better. And yes, this is a form of manipulation. You're trying to change someone in order to be a very specific way that you want them to be for personal gain. So yes, this is manipulation. You don't need to manipulate people to serve your agenda. You can actually attract aligned connections into your life and let go of the need to manipulate people or have people be any specific way. And to someone who is, I guess, a lesser developed ego, because there's actually stages of ego development. There's levels of identity, levels of value systems, levels of consciousness. To people at lower levels of consciousness, this sounds absurd because what they would want to really do the most is exploit people and manipulate them for personal gain. But as you raise your consciousness and as you kind of stay at higher levels of consciousness, that whole thing just seems like a giant game, like a house of cards, like a waste of time, like a waste of energy. And actually, by releasing the urge to manipulate, by releasing your resistance to life, by releasing your urge to constantly change people, and by simply being authentic, by being who you actually naturally are, right? What is that? What is your most authentic self? Who are you in your most natural form, right? When you can be that, you can attract various people into your life that are very aligned with you. You can actually form far more meaningful and deep connections. The urge to manipulate, the urge to bend other people to your will is not sustainable for relationships, right? You're basically creating a dysfunctional and unhealthy relationship with any person who you're in relationship to, not just like intimate. I mean, like all human relationships. And it's very uncomfortable to do this. You create suffering for yourself. You create suffering for the other person. Overall, this is just how people ruin connections. This is how you make the shared emotions between you two and the overall felt experience just become toxic and unhealthy and just overall uncomfortable. So letting go of the need to manipulate people and control them is pretty radical because so much of what we do is try and control people. And it's not even conscious. Most people don't even know that they're doing it. Most people have no awareness that what they're doing is manipulating people when they're, doing things like this. So when you let go of the urge to manipulate, you actually allow incompatible connections to leave your life and you attract more aligned connections. Because when something very fundamentally doesn't work and you keep trying to manipulate it and force it to work, it's first of all just so much energy. Like it's exhausting to do that. And it's out of alignment. It's not really fitting you well, right? It's not like the normal flow of life. It's not the natural rhythm of life. It's like you're trying to fight against it, which causes a lot of suffering, and it's just not worth it. So when you let go of manipulating people, when you let go of trying to force change upon people, you attract more aligned connections into your life because manipulation is not really authentic to you. Manipulation is highly inauthentic. Authenticity is who you truly are. Your most natural, true, and genuine expression of yourself, which is actually quite difficult. We have various traumas and fears and inner blocks and worries that really prevent us from just being our natural self. So when you're handling people who are at different levels of consciousness than you, who have different values than you, who have different beliefs than you. You don't try and force your way of life onto them. Instead, learn to respect people based off where they're at in their journey. Learn to actually respect people based off of their level of consciousness instead of trying to impose yours onto them. Because a very deep, meaningful, and lasting change doesn't happen through force. This occurs naturally over time. I'm 6'2", and no one could, for example, force me to grow faster in my physical size. It just occurred naturally over time, and our psyche works like this as well. Some people get stuck at certain levels of development. Most people get stuck at certain levels of development. But people who are really interested in growth and consciousness will keep going, because if they're very sincere about it, they will. Right? If they have a very deep intention to become more conscious, they will. And this change happens slowly and over time. There's a certain rate at which people can grow at that you have to learn to respect. There's a certain rate at which you can grow at that you have to learn to respect. You can't force a lot of change without disrupting people, without making them feel anxious or worried. And I'll talk more about that very shortly. But you basically cannot change people in very fundamental ways that are out of alignment with who they are. If that works, it'll be very short term, and it will lead to frustration and resentment, and it's exhausting. This is like the key word here, is that you are expending so much energy to try and do that. And the reason why it's exhausting and the reason why it creates suffering is because this is your body telling you to not do this, that you're giving too much, you're exerting too much. There's another way of being that is healthier than this. So I want to address a couple misconceptions about what I'm actually saying here. And I've made 2 videos called Let People Be in Their Own Worlds, that basically talk a lot about this. And I'm just kind of talking about this subject more because most people seem to get it, but there's definitely some misconceptions. So I have 2 main misconceptions here. Lucas, does this mean that I can't help someone? Right? If they want to change and they need help, I can't help them? No, you can help someone. You can support someone. There's a massive difference between helping someone or supporting them and forcing your values on them, forcing your beliefs on them, forcing a particular way of being onto them. Go out and try this in your relationships to people. See how they react. I guarantee you, they will not like it very much because people will instinctively feel that you are trying to force them to be some other way, and it's highly uncomfortable. We will detect manipulation. We will instinctually pick it up, and people can kind of gaslight themselves or not even pick it up. It depends really how in tune with life and the present experience they are. That's really how you get good at detecting manipulation. But a lot of people won't pick it up, but a lot of people will. It's just not going to work. I would recommend not doing that strategy. I'd recommend not playing these manipulative games, not trying to force people to be in very fundamentally different ways that they are. So this doesn't mean that you can't help someone, right? And people will have the idea that what they're doing is helping someone, but actually they're just forcing their idea of help onto them, right? This is for their own good, right? And it's often not for their own good. When you're trying to help someone, get curious about what their circumstances are. What do you want to change? Why? How does your current circumstance make you feel? How does your future or your ideal circumstance make you feel? What do you think it's going to bring you? Right? Like, what do you really want out of it? Why do you want that? Really begin to dig into basically where they're trying to go. Get an understanding of it. You have to leave yourself behind. You have to leave your ego behind. You have to leave your mind behind, all your values and beliefs. You have to step into their worldview, their way of being in order to understand them and then help them. Helping people is pretty complicated. I do quite a lot of life coaching, and you can't force your values onto people. It doesn't work. You have to encourage people to follow their own values, to really get clear about their own values, what they really want. Lucas, does this mean that I just let people abuse me? Right? I don't force those bad people who are going to abuse me to change. No, you can actually have boundaries, and being very authentic in your life will include you setting boundaries because you're going to care a lot about your well-being. You're not going to basically allow yourself to be abused because you're, not forcing people to change. This doesn't mean that you can't like defend yourself in any kind of way. It actually really means the opposite. When you really get comfortable with people being who they are, this is a major shift in your consciousness, right? This isn't just like a corny principle, right? This is like an entire way of being that actually shifts your consciousness quite a lot. And it's actually quite rare to come across people who like actually live by this kind of stuff. This isn't a very common thing. Right? Your relationships will be more harmonious. And when people try and abuse you or manipulate you, you will pick it up very fast. You'll be far better than everyone else at picking it up because you're watching it. You understand the mechanics of this stuff. You understand the energetics of this stuff. You feel the emotions and like the overall felt experience of what's going on. And when someone's manipulating you, you just detect it instinctually. And you know what's going on. And you don't have to hate them for it. A lot of people just do it unconsciously. But you also don't have to let them abuse you or take advantage of you. You can have boundaries, right? I'm not saying you just like open yourself up unconditionally to people and let them do whatever they want to you. Definitely not. I'm just saying when it comes to your relationships in your life, go force people to change. See what happens. See how good your relationships are. Now, what I'm saying is that manipulating them to change, trying to force them to change, imposing your values on them, imposing your beliefs on them, imposing your help on them, this isn't going to work. And parents are really guilty of imposing their help on their kids instead of like really getting curious, but like, what is my kid's psychology? What do they naturally and authentically gravitate towards? Things like this. They don't really get into the kid's shoes and into the kid's psyche. Instead, they just think like, oh, I'm a parent, I know so much, right? But this isn't actually a very wise approach. You got to like dig into the person. So what does what I'm saying actually mean? This means that you're done manipulating people for your personal gain. This is something that low consciousness people do, and people can be low consciousness. That's always going to exist for the most part. But is that what you want for your life? Do you want your relationships to be basically a manipulation game for your own personal gain? Does that sound like it's going to lead you anywhere very, very fantastic in your relational life? Next is this means you're done playing games in order to get what you want. This means that you can actually interact with others in a transparent, authentic, genuine, and honest way, and just overall authentic way. Your authenticity will increase because of this, right? When you're forcing people to change, when you're bending the external to your will, like if you're bending a person to your will, this isn't going to help your relationships whatsoever. This is going to cause both of you a lot of suffering, and this is highly inauthentic to you. This is basically just survival parts of you talking, like very primitive survival parts of you, just trying to exploit people to get what you want. That's all it really is. And there's no judgment from me while I'm making this video. This happens to everyone. Like this is actually a pretty normal part of human psychology. You can just become aware of it and learn how to actually stop doing it and process those parts of you and really begin to just let it go. And once you really do let it go, you'll feel way lighter. Your relationships will be more harmonious. There's a sense of rhythm to life. There's a sense of flow to life. Your perception of life begins to change. So this means that you let go of the people who are very fundamentally out of alignment with you and create space in your life for people who do resonate with you. This is quite hard for people because we get attached to people, and this is pretty needed for survival. This is a survival need. And people will avoid letting people go just in order to avoid the pain of letting them go. And what I'm saying is that if you are in a very fundamentally incompatible relationship and you're trying to force people to change, first of all, it's not going to work, right? Like this is going to be very uncomfortable for the both of you if you keep this up. If you keep up this behavior, just trying to force them to change. It's going to be very uncomfortable. It's not going to work. And next, you can attract people who actually fit well with you. You can do it. Right? I've talked to a lot of people who have all sorts of limiting beliefs about the people they can attract into their lives. Guys, you can attract people into your lives who are very good fits for you. This is a very possible thing for you. This is just more than possible. It's your own mind that creates all these self-imposed limitations and it holds them there, right? Your mind creates all these self-limiting beliefs and just overall self-imposed limitations. It holds them there in order to keep you in your little bubble of safety in your comfort zone. What I'm saying is that you can let that entire thing go and you can actually get the things that you want. Get the things that like the core of your being wants. Get the things that life is trying to bring to you in a very natural and organic way. What this means, this video, is that you no longer impose your value system, your belief system, or your way of life onto people, but you learn to coexist with people who have different values, beliefs, ways of life. And you can actually respect them. You can actually respect the complexity of human value systems and like the massive amounts of like overall value sets and personality types that exist. Respect complexity. Don't try and like get in there like an immature ego and manipulate everything to your liking, right? If that works, it's only going to work very short term. It's going to create a lot of suffering. It's going to be very frustrating. What I'm saying is to just give that up. It's going to be very exhausting if you do that. So learn to coexist with the wide amounts of values and beliefs that actually exist and learn how to respect them. Learn how to actually understand them at their core. Right? Actually study different beliefs, study different points of view, study all the religions, study spirituality and meditation and consciousness, study science, study like just get a lot of perspectives, man. Like you want to just be able to have a very flexible, open mind that's capable of juggling perspectives. If, of course, you want to really learn how to respect various beliefs and values. Because without a lot of different perspectives, you can't really make sense of them. See, most of us are always trapped within a few points of view, right? Study both sides of the political spectrum, right? And actually, like, try and understand, why do people vote right? Why do people vote left? Why do people enjoy physics, biology, chemistry? Why are people Christian? Why are people Muslim? What is the core of these religions? Native spirituality? Just, yeah, get curious about all this stuff. And just a quick disclaimer, this video is not me trying to change you. So for anyone trying to leave a comment like that, I make content for people who find it valuable and just enjoy it, right? You don't have to do anything I say in this video. If you want to just like click off the video and go to the next one, that's perfectly fine. And if you want to go manipulate people for your own personal gain, I mean, you can go try that. It's going to be pretty uncomfortable. Yeah. So this means that you meet people based off of where they're at. People are at different levels of consciousness, and you want to meet people based off of the level of consciousness that they're at, rather than trying to force them, right, to be a different way. And there's actually a certain rate at which people can grow. You have to respect how fast other people can grow. You have to respect how fast you can grow. You have to respect how fast things can change. If you change too fast, or if another person changes too fast, basically radical change really fast overwhelms us. We have all sorts of homeostatic mechanisms, meaning that we want to just preserve our current form. Right? We have all sorts of systems that help us to do that in order to survive. Right? We have all these mechanisms inside of us, and when radical change happens too fast, even if it's very positive, these go off and they create anxiety and fear and overwhelm, because to a very unconscious part of you, this is being interpreted as highly threatening, and death means the death of your old self. So respect the rate at which people can grow. There's a certain pace at which people can grow. Not everyone can grow at the exact same pace, and just learn to actually be okay with that. So this means that, of course, you respect people based on where they're at, and you respect their autonomy. You actually respect them making decisions for themselves. Even if it's a wrong decision that's going to lead to suffering for themselves, just respect that. Maybe that's how they have to learn, right? You can't like save everyone. Respect just their freedom. Respect their existence. Respect the expression of who they are. So we're always trying to change the world to serve us. This is a very natural part of human psychology, right? When you're going to the fridge to get water, what are you doing? You're imposing your will upon reality in order to get a need met. You're opening the fridge, grabbing water, and we do this all the time. When you're going to click to the next video, what are you doing? You're imposing your will upon reality in order to get something that you want. What I'm saying is that if you do this to people, this is going to have a horrible impact on your relationships. And even if you're not even conscious of yourself doing this to life itself, ordinary objects, your consciousness is going to remain low. You actually want to get curious about how you manipulate life. You want to get very curious about how you exploit, how you lie and avoid and deny and project and just manipulate. You want to get curious about your shadow and all the things that you avoid within you. So that's it for this video. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below. Take it easy.